Welcome back to the channel. I'm here with Brian Massey, Massey's Main Entertainment, Randall Nelson, and Doc. Another installment of our series. We're doing a top 50. This time it's 1970. We have a ballot that we pretty much adhere to, have some wild cards if the categories aren't covered, put together a ranked top 50 list, and in this episode, we'll each present our individual top 10 list, and then we'll look towards the end of the show and see how everything stacks up. So without any further ado, let's jump right in. Tonight's order is going to be Randy, Brian, Doc, and myself. So let me pull up the first order of business, which will be Randy's list, and we can jump right in and see how everything turns out. So,
see it, Randy.
Randy, take it away. Let's run through your list.
All right. Well, my number 10 is "The Thrill Is Gone" by B.B. King. King's biggest hit. It's a blues tune I just had to include. Love the guitar on that one. My number 9, and it stoned me, Van Morrison off Moondance. Great tune, looking at the joys of youth and all the things that can happen on the day. The kids are going to go out to go fishing, but it rains, and just a great story, I think, on this song. My number 8 is "Question" by the Moody Blues. One of my favorite Moody Blues tunes. Like the rapid and the slow parts in this one. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
My number 7 is "After the Gold Rush," Neil Young. Great title track. It's probably my favorite Neil Young album, my favorite Neil Young song here. Number 6, I got "Bridge Over Troubled Water," Simon and Garfunkel. Great song written by Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel's most amazing vocal performance, I think. My number 5, "That's the Way," Led Zeppelin. This album was known more of an acoustic album, and I think this is the highlight that kind of shows that. Probably some other people will pick a different Led Zeppelin song, but I've always just loved this one. Number 4, "Who'll Stop the Rain" by Creedence Clearwater Revival. Great dichotomy in this song. Is it hopeful or is it hopeless? You know, is anybody going to stop the rain is what you got to think about. My number 3, "Layla," Derek and the Dominoes. One of the greatest rock love songs with Eric Clapton's most unrelenting, anguished vocals and just fantastic guitar work on that song. And my number 2 is "Into the Mystic," Van Morrison. Van takes us on a mystical journey. Love the cello that I think's the foghorn in this one, but it's just a cool song. Am I coming through?
Yeah, you're good.
You're good, man.
Okay. And my number 1, Brian said he had his favorite song of all time last week. This is actually my favorite song of all time, and that's
wow.
"Rainy Night in Georgia" by Brooke Benton. I just love Brooke singing on this. When he sings, "Lord, I believe it's raining all over the world," I believe him. Tony Joe White wrote the song, but I just love this version.
Wow.
That's
a couple like deeper songs, I think, in a lot of ways, on this list, which I really like. I mean, it's absolutely no surprise that you have Van Morrison on there twice. I thought you'd have him 3 times, honestly, but that's fine. Good list, though. You're going to see some of this stuff. Yeah.
The one surprise for me was his number 5 at "That's the Way."
Yeah. That's a deeper one. I like it.
I knew Randy felt highly on "Rainy Night in Georgia" and "The Thrill Is Gone." I knew they'd be in there somewhere. So the nice bookends. Perfect. All right. Excellent. So let's go to Brian's top 10 and see how we stack up here. All right. There we go.
Wow. All right. So obviously at number 10 here, I've got "Run Through the Jungle," CCR. I mean, again, these are songs that are traditionally heard like whenever there's a war movie of any kind, of any type of substance like that. Usually you hear this song. I just really like the guitar in this one a little bit, and this it's almost like this weird, ironic tone that he has about being patriotic or whatever, which really he's just kind of throwing his face back at it a little bit. So, and then I've got George Harrison. Isn't it a pity? Obviously, I think most people would argue whether or not he would have the most successful Beatles solo project. I guess that is debatable. I would think that he does. I think this album really stacks up really well. At least the two albums do. The third album, it is what it is. It doesn't necessarily, I don't necessarily count that as a part of it, but number 8's kind of a deeper cut. This is Hawkwind's "Hurry on Sundown." I've listened to a few of their albums. I can tell you that for sure, "Hurry on Sundown" doesn't sound anything like any other Hawkwind song. This one may be the most accessible in terms of maybe getting some radio airplay. So, number 7, I've got "No Sugar Tonight," "New Mother Nature" by the Guess Who. This is my favorite song by the Guess Who anyway, and I just love the interesting, almost like it's not a harmony, but it's like a round that they do at the end where they start singing it and then the next person starts singing it again, but at a different moment in there, and they end up with this overlay that makes it sound really interesting. I love it. A little deeper cut here with my wild card. I got "My Father's Gun" from Elton John. Song just I think is just extremely well written. I think that from one of those classics from Mad Men that just add extra strength to an already fabulous album. "Sweet Jane" from the Velvet Underground. Big fan of them. I have all their albums. I think they're really great. So, and I'm always into my psychedelic rock. Any opportunity I get, I'll throw some psych rock on there. One of 2 Van Morrison songs show up now with "Moondance." I think it's the greatest, lead off track, maybe, in a lot of albums. Maybe we'll be discussing another one next week that might probably be better. "Let It Be" by the Beatles is the title track from their last studio album that they had, and it actually even though they recorded the material before Abbey Road, a lot of it they released this particular album afterwards. And then we got "Father and Son" from Cat Stevens. I'm sure that there'll be somebody in this group that also likes this song. Got a little bit more notoriety when Guardians of the Galaxy had a death scene in it that this song was played in for a Marvel movie, and it just took off again for its popularity. And then finally, that second Van Morrison song, "Into the Mystic," another great, beautiful tune by Van Morrison. "Moondance" is one of my favorite albums of all time, so had to include it.
All right. It's a good list.
Excellent.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Great tunes.
I love "Sweet Jane." I like to see that in somebody's top 5, and that's probably my favorite Velvet Underground song, to be honest with you.
Mine too, I'd say. The live version is fantastic.
Yeah.
Of course, can't go wrong with CCR, the Beatles, Cat, Van. They're all there. A couple surprises. The Elton song, I believe that was off "Tumbleweed Connection," right? "My Father's Gun," and
Yes,
1970, yeah. And "No Sugar Tonight," great. And the Hawkwind song, I did listen to it. It's an interesting tune, so I can see why you would have it. It's different.
Thanks.
So very good. Outstanding. Let's go to Doc batting third and see what he's got laid out here for us.
Doc,
boom. There you go, Doc.
You see the separation now? You can see the separation between the gang here as it goes, right?
Yeah, as we go.
Here we go. I can't remember who had it. Maybe Randy. I've got "After the Gold Rush" at number 10 myself. It's probably Neil's best album, I think, too. And it's a great song, man. And it's you can see by my list I can go either way here. Really soft or poetic or whatever, or something a little different. But that's my number 10. My number 9, Brian, you had earlier. Probably my favorite Guess Who song too, as a guest. With Bachman and Burton both writing 2 songs and then getting together and bringing up this one here, "No Sugar Tonight," "New Mother Nature." And you're right, the way the overlaps in the end, that they're singing over each other at the end is really, really cool. So great tune, great riff in there too, man. Here comes Sabbath, man. What can I tell you? I like early Sabbath, and I think they're on my list a few times throughout this top 50 anyway. But War Pigs is a classic Sabbath tune, and once again, 1970. I'm one man. I'm not listening to this, but when I get into my music later on in life, I like this a lot. So, and it's still with me. So I think War Pigs is a classic Sabbath tune, and the heavy metal side that we saw from Zeppelin before, here it comes even heavier now. So then you get the idea. Then I can go to Helpless here by CSNY. That's my number 7. So it's I just think it's a real poetic song, and sometimes I like my easy listening. Sometimes I like it the other way. So I think it's just a beautiful song from 1970. If you want the truth, in a lot of senses. The way it's presented to you, not the actual meaning, but the sense, the way it's delivered. Helpless is a great tune. Number 6, Brian, I think you had. I think it's Bridge Over Troubled Water.
It was Randy.
Oh, Randy, you had it. So there you go.
Randy.
I think we've hit on a couple then, Randy, maybe. So yeah, another, it's I find it like I said before, Simon and Garfunkel, some of the other guys, some of the singer-songwriter stuff, I really adapt to, like some of their hits or some of their deeper cuts that really hit with me, stick. Overall catalogs, I'm not a big fan of in a whole bunch of senses, but I do like a lot of their stuff if I'm listening to it individually. And this would be one of those kind of artists, is Simon Garfunkel. But this is really high on my list of songs, man. So Zeppelin, I got the Immigrant song here. This is me. So right back to that heavier riff, shall we say, or that heavier stuff, and a classic Zeppelin tune, man. It's I think it's a top 10 song for me in 1970 for sure. Guess I go the other way again, right? So I got Your Song by Elton.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I debate between favorite songs from Elton. This song, Leave On, Tiny Dancer. There's a few out there that I really, really like, and this is one of them. So it's classic Elton in the 70s, man. He's going to go on a run here, and he'll be popping up a few times on my list. Where he lands in top 10 or not, we'll see. But top 10 for me in 1970. I got George's My Sweet Lord at number 3. Look at my top 3, right? So this is a big shocker. I think that if you're going to go in on your footnotes here with the solos and stuff like this, and there you go. You got My Sweet Lord from George, floating into Let It Be by the Beatles, which is just a classic rock song from them. And, towards the end here, and my number 1 with Maybe I'm Amazed, man. It's maybe Paul's best. I love Juniors. I like a few, but it's right there for me. And I just love when he starts screeching, man, how mad he sounds on that song. I just love the way it sounds. Maybe I'm Amazed. I think I was number 1 for 1970 for me.
Very nice. I mean, I agree with you about that is Neil Young's best album. You and Randy both had that. I'm glad to see No Sugar Tonight. And War Pigs is no surprise. I don't think there's any surprises on Doc's list, guys. Am I seeing anything that's odd? No,
but I think these are the most varied lists we've had.
He is, yeah.
There's not songs that I was sure was going to be in the top 10 of each person's list. This is the most varied year, I think.
Yeah, and I'm like to have just 2 spaces removed between Bridge Over Troubled Water and War Pigs. that takes a man of eclectic taste.
That's me, man.
Yeah, it's definitely varied, and I think if we examined the 11 through 20, we'd see even more variations.
Yeah, exactly. I think we would.
Because it's such a strong year, and there's so much different music, either winding down from the 60s or anew in the 70s. It's just the perfect mishmash, It's fantastic. So let me pull mine up. Great list, Doc. Everybody had a great job. Everybody had a great list. Mine's a little different. I think I have 3 songs that nobody mentioned so far. So let's pull them up and see. I went with John Lennon's Instant Karma at number 10.
Yep.
I just think this song rocks, man. We all shine on the moon and the stars and the sun. I just like that whole vibe. So I'm taking that at number 10. My number 9 is the Guess Who's American Woman. I know it's probably their most popular tune, but it's the one I like the best. I'm no good for you. You're no good for me, and all that. I just like Burton Cummings' voice. Let's face it. Everything, anything. The guy is a vocal genius. Number 8, I have also After the Gold Rush. I think it's a timeless song, especially for that time. It just fits 1970 like no other song. Layla is my number 7 from Derek and the Dominoes. It still holds up, whether you see it in Goodfellas or any of these movies later on. It's epic. Number 6, Bridge Over Troubled Water. Art Garfunkel really puts on a vocal tour de force there, and Paul Simon's writing is some of the best of all time. I have Your Song at number 5, Elton's first song I ever heard from Elton John come on the radio, and it stuck with me, 54 years later. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Song. Number 4 is, I think, one of the great songs ever written on the spot, and that's Ohio by Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. Neil Young wrote it. It was released as a single right after the Kent State massacre in May of 1970. It was on the cover of Newsweek and Time and Life, and it just hit home. Neil Young saw the magazine cover and just wrote this song. They recorded it in the studio, and the rest is history. Number 3 is Let It Be, a sort of a swan song for the Beatles as a unit. Paul McCartney on the piano on that one. Everybody's in full force on that. I love it. Into the Mystic. This was a tough battle between my number 2 and 1. I love both songs equally as much, but I went with Into the Mystic at number 2 by Van Morrison. I love that the fog and the foghorn blowing and sailing off into the mystic. It's got that quality of mystery about it, and finality, and maybe even hope. Love it. Number 1 is Father and Son. I've talked about this song a lot in the past in different venues here, but Off the Tee for the Tillerman. Just a wonderfully created song where you get both perspectives, and then if you listen real close on headphones while the father's point is being brought across and sung, you hear the son in the background talking as well, and vice versa. It's a masterpiece of a song for me, and that lands on top in 1970.
Yeah. Wow. I think we had the same top 3, just in a different order. Well, Let It Be was in the same spot, but we just flip-flopped our 1 and 2.
Yeah, we have a lot of songs, all 4 of us in different spots, in and out.
Yeah. Interesting.
All right, we're going to bring up the top 50 overall and take a look. As you can see, Into the Mystic, even though Doc did not have it, it still landed at number 1 on the strength of a 1 and 2 twos. Let It Be finished second with a 2, a pair of 3s, and then an 18.
Nice.
So that number 1, if you have a number 1, that's 10 points. If you have a number 2, it's 7. There's a 3-point difference there. So that really is a tough squeeze. Cat Stevens finished 3rd, Elton 4th. Maybe I'm Amazed came in at number 5. We all had it, but Doc was the only one that had it real high. The other was, in the 20s, 30s, and I had it at 45.
So maybe I'm Amazed is to you what Into the Mystic is to me, buddy. There you
go.
That's a great correlation. I'll go with that. Moondance title track. No Sugar Tonight finishes at number 8 with really strong rankings all the way through. Have You Ever Seen the Rain? Bridge Over Troubled Water. Brian sort of gave it the old shaft, but the rest of us had it number 6. Isn't that crazy?
That's funny. We all had it at 6, eh? That's weird.
That is weird.
For some reason, that song is just way too sappy for me. I can't get into it at all.
I can see it. After the Gold Rush, a strong showing. Who'll Stop the Rain, the other Creedence song. Instant Karma. Rainy Night in Georgia. Now, Randy's the only one that had it. He had it number 1, and that was good enough to finish 14. Just for one number 1.
Oh, man.
So I think that was obviously it was Randy's highest with nobody supporting it. I had Ohio, and nobody voted for that either. So I know how you feel a little bit.
That was my last
My Sweet Lord. If you could read my mind, I had it at 12. Randy had it at 12, and Doc had it at 18.
Well, what's really odd is like between 10 and 16, I basically gave all those songs the shaft.
You really did.
No, you did.
Yeah, buddy.
Sometimes you got to give it the shaft. Yeah, you did really. You go right down. There's a big blank. That's funny.
It's a pretty good album. You don't like, Brian?
Yeah, exactly. That's a good album that I've never would listen to.
Where am I at? Oh, shit. Is this it? Yeah.
Wow.
as we go further down, we can see All Right Now by
I
Free.
had
all
Child
of
in
it's
Time
out.
higher than you, Doc.
What's that?
I had Child in Time higher than you. What's wrong with you?
Hey, look, it was in my double album from that year that we did it, which would have been 24 songs. And it just, life changes, man. Popped outside.
Wow.
Look at some of them. I'm Your Captain's in there. Lola. Now, 5 years ago, I would have had Lola pretty high, but that's so overplayed for me now. I just can't do it. So it moved down. It probably would have been 51st on my list if we had done 50. That was the
Brian had it stone me. I'm glad to see that.
Yeah, I did. Yep. I did like it.
Yep. James Taylor's Fire and Rain had 2 number 11s and 2 chefs. So there you go.
That's funny. That's my favorite James Taylor song. I mean, I had to, go on.
Yeah. Let me move down. I like seeing some of these lesser light songs a little bit. There's The Thrill Is Gone.
Yeah. Only Me and Randy.
Rain. Alice Cooper had a couple of votes
this year. What now?
Alice Cooper had 2 votes. Chicago, a couple. 3 Dog Night. Mama Told Me Not to Come. Now they had all 4 of us had it on their list somewhere, but it was like in the high 30s and low 40s there. Couldn't get much support.
Doc and I were pretty close with Alice Cooper there.
Yeah, we were. Just saw that.
There's great to see the band in there too. That's one of my favorite band songs, The Shape I'm In. I'd put it at 21. So that's pretty much where we're at with this list. I mean, always these years in the late 60s and early 70s are virtually impossible to do.
They're killers, man.
Yeah, they really are. Because you're leaving stuff off the list that really deserves to be on, and it's hard to squeeze 100 songs into a list of 50, if you know what I mean. So that's where we're at. 1971 is going to be no picnic either next time around. It really is.
It's not, especially at the top. The top tier in 71 is pretty solid, man. Friggin' tough.
Yeah.
Between Zeppelin and The Who, you could have a top 10 just of those 2 albums. Oh, yeah. Let's face it. Between those 2 albums alone, and that would stand up with anybody. But we're doing a little bit different. We're doing variety and different, categories here and there. You got to have some soul on your list and some pop and heavy stuff. So we're trying to mix it up so everybody gets a taste. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for watching. Appreciate that. Let us know what you think of any of the lists. The list in general is a composite. What we left off, what you were shocked not to see. We like all that banter in the comments below. Subscribe to Brian at Massey's Main Entertainment, Randy at Randall Nelson. We'll see you back next week or so with 1971. Thanks again, everybody. Take care. We'll see you.